Hey everyone, I'm Mrs. Darwin's Eyeball. We're up here in Canada taking a break from virtual reality to do some fishing, and you're watching Viewer Takeover on PSVR without Parole.
This is Viewer Takeover. We film every Tuesday night and then bring it to you every Wednesday. Not that we ever stay on schedule around here. In fact, we almost didn't stay on schedule because Dez is missing in action. We're assuming he's on vacation. For the sake of my ego, we're going to say that that's where he is. And that he didn't just abandon us.
He's on a vacation
completely.
from you, Brian. He's on a vacation from you.
Come back. In all fairness, that should be a without parole requirement, prerequisite.
You get some PTO days, you say. Brian, I don't want to talk to you today, man.
That's right. And with us this week, in lieu of Dez being here, AJ from PSVR Underground and this channel right here, and of course Dave right there in the middle from Dave Station VR. Gentlemen, thank you very, very much for filling in Dez's absence.
Not a problem.
Yeah. What up, cats?
All right, you guys, obviously there's a few people we want to thank before we really get the ball rolling here on Viewer Takeover. The first person we want to thank is, of course, Darwin's Eyeball, or more accurately, Darwin's Eyeball's wife, who sent us that awesome Viewer Takeover introduction from... Did they say where they were?
On a beautiful river somewhere. It looked very peaceful and relaxing, and I wish I was there, honestly.
I'd like
very artistic.
Stunning.
And yes.
Yeah. So if you want to introduce next week's Viewer Takeover, make sure you send us your short, sweet, seductive... I don't know, get any other S words? Oh,
you said seductive. You already said seductive.
I don't know what that. I don't know what that is, but I want that in every Viewer Takeover video.
It's a saucy cat.
Withoutparole@gmail.com. Remember, it's a Gmail account, so keep it short, keep it simple, keep it sexy. I don't know what we're doing anymore. Thank you very much, Darwin and Darwin's Eyeball's wife. It's a lot of possessives in that statement. But of course, Darwin's Eyeball and Darwin's Eyeball is also not the only people we want to thank this week. We also want to thank a bunch of people who went over to patreon.com/withoutparolegames. These people down there. I'm off camera doing this, so it's not quite as effective as when Dez and I do this. But these are all people, patreon.com/withoutparolegames is giving us $1 or more every single month. And if you guys don't know, man, your dollar goes a very long way and is very much the only thing keeping this channel running. If you like this channel even a little bit, like if you watch once a week, consider heading over there. Hey, what are you doing over there on the side? I saw you. I saw that.
Also, well, here's the other thing.
Camera, sorry.
If you like Brian at all, you should sign up for the Patreon because
worst sales pitch ever.
I'm just saying, he needs to eat. This man needs to eat.
Yeah.
And he shouldn't just be eating ramen every day. So
listen,
send him
cats,
some Patreon cash.
This dude
This is his full-time
pizza.
job. Exactly. Okay? That's what I'm talking about. So head on over to Patreon, get this man some sausage. You get all the meats, right? Don't you get all the meats?
I get a lot of stuff, yeah.
You get all the meats.
For sure.
So he needs a little bit of cash. Patreon.com/withoutparolegames.
You are the worst salesman ever.
We can edit this out, right? We're gonna edit.
No, we're keeping it all in.
If you go to Dave's page and go to his about, it just says "Give me money" and has like a link to his like eBay or Patreon.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't.
No, that's
although
legit,
my
man.
Patreon says I'm terrible at doing rewards for Patreon members.
It
so
does.
sorry, but. Yeah, no.
I
still got a few, anyways. Those guys are great. I wish I could shout them out, but I don't.
Those are damn good people.
Not my show.
I'm one of your Patreon supporters, Dave.
And I'm one of yours.
I know.
Well.
We're just giving money to Patreon. That's all we're really doing.
We're just handing $1 back and forth every month.
And then part of it's going to Patreon. We should just stop giving money to each other and save everybody some money.
Actually, that's a pretty good idea.
It's ridiculous.
I never thought about it that way. I never really thought about it that way.
We also do give our Patreon supporters a little bit more love than that. Other than being on that scroll on the bottom of the screen, we also we also give you Litterbox episodes, which is basically just me and Dez sitting around shooting the shit, talking about stuff that we would have talked about anyway, but we turn the camera on and we share that stuff with you. We got some stuff coming up that's a little bit different. I'm curious to see what everyone thinks of it. I've got a pilot episode that I'm working on that I sort of want to do a test run with the Patreon folks first before I throw it onto the channel for the masses. It's a little unnerving, I guess. Unnerving to, reveal new content. So I want to see what the loyals to the loyal think of it first. So join us over there, patreon.com/withoutparole games. And then finally, the last people we want to thank before we really get the show started are the people who followed Beauty and the Decay's lead, aka Matt the Game Cat. Once upon a time, Matt the Game Cat was known as Beauty and the Decay, and then he changed his name on Google or YouTube so that in the comments, he became Matt the Game Cat. He was the very first person to change his name to Game Cat, which is a beautiful, beautiful thing. And
Very
he started
nice.
a movement. There are now hundreds of people who changed their name to Game Cat, and we want to give a shout out to all the people who changed their name to Game Cat this week. Who wants to take the lead on this? Who is doing it?
Do I have my email up? Oh,
I got this.
Who's got
So, first of all, we've got Al Pacino's favorite game cat, Devil's Thadvo Game Cat.
Devil's
the Advo Game Cat. Devil's the
Devil's
Advo Game Cat.
the
You get
Advo
it.
Game
You
Cat.
get it. It's clever out there.
Thadvo.
It's
Just think about it for a sec.
I'm glad you said it because I didn't get it before you said it. But now it's awesome. It's too clever for me though.
It's a good movie.
Yeah.
Next, we have my dude, K Panic, the top 20 game cat, giving us a
Top
shout out,
20
giving us some love for our top 20 list.
Very
Hell yeah,
topical of
man.
him. I like that.
Yeah.
Yes.
No.
Do you think tomorrow he'll be K Panic, the viewer takeover Game Cat, and then following that he'll be the Why We Love Game Cat?
Maybe, I don't
As
know. You
long
can
as
always-
this show runs for 6 hours, he'll probably change his name to whatever it is.
Maybe.
No.
Maybe. Next up,
we have Scandrel, the game cat.
he's so scandalous.
Scandalous.
Right? I know who I'm getting my meth from. Scandal sounds like maybe he's got some connections. Also, don't do meth. Seriously, that's ridiculous. All right. Oh no, I ruined the show. I ruined AJ.
Next, we have. This is probably my favorite one
Oh, wait, can I?
that
are you
I've
gonna
ever
do it?
seen.
Can we do it at the same time?
Ooh.
You ready? 3, 2, 1.
I'm Batman. The Game Cat.
Wow, that was great. I'm Batman. It's tough not to do the
I
voice.
don't know.
It's tough to
Yeah,
not.
It
it's-
is. Yeah.
I like
So it's-
PSVR.
We've got a famous Game Cat now. I mean, he's Batman.
He's
So,
Batman.
Pretty high up there on the list.
He's Batman, the game cat.
He sure is.
Where are the drugs going?
All right, we got 2 more to shout out. Okay, let's keep moving. Wow, Batman.
You got.
Why isn't he?
Floppy
Why isn't he?
Pants.
I'm Catman. By the way, that would have been even funnier. I'm Catman.
I'm Catman. We've got Ploppy Pants, the game cat Jedi.
Also,
Finally,
wait,
He
wait,
was from one of the prequels, right? Ploppy Pants the Jedi. I remember
so.
him. Yeah, I think he was in the second one. Yeah.
yeah, they were all about that caliber. Floppy Pants. I do have to apologize to him. I know he wanted Dez to give him the shout out. Maybe we'll have to do that again next week. He was like, I just want to hear Dez say Floppy Pants, and let's be fair, don't we all?
just give him a second one. Just give him a second shout out.
Yeah, why
Problem
not?
solved.
Yeah, one and tell
Finally,
Dez.
we've
Dez doesn't
got-
watch.
At long last, we've been waiting and we've been asking, and we got what we wanted. We have Lou, the game cat.
I'm
Did
happy.
you demand that this person change their
I
name?
demanded it. I
You
shouted
did,
it
okay.
from a mountain.
Weeks and weeks, they said you have to change
was
your
like,
name.
Lou,
You have to change your name. And
come
at
on,
long
Lou.
last, finally, Lou has changed their name.
Twist their arm enough.
I love it. It's nice and simple.
There
They clung to us.
Absolutely love it. Make sure that if you change your name to GameCat and you want to get a shout out on next week's show, put hashtag GameCat somewhere in the comments below, and we'll certainly get around to doing that the next time we film one of these episodes, which hopefully is next week. We're just horribly off schedule. And then finally, the people who, the reason we're doing this show is because we try to answer people's questions, answer people's comments. So if you have a question or comment that you want us to read, make sure you put hashtag viewer takeover in the comments below with your question or comment, or click the link in the description, join our Discord server. In the Discord server, you'll find a viewer takeover channel. You can leave all your viewer takeover questions or comments there. Don't worry, I will definitely find them. Discord is happening. Is it happening to say happening?
It's happening.
Yeah.
Oh, it's cool.
I
Yeah.
totally figured out
It's
how to
it's
use
hip to be
Discord
square.
because
Yeah.
of all this.
Yeah, for real. Me too.
You sound like a hep cat when you say that.
Who? Me?
You, yeah.
Oh,
Sound real down.
hip hip and everywhere. Hip 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 to be square.
Yeah, there you
Huey
go.
Lewis in the news, man. Hey, no, okay. All right. So first question comes to us. Who wants to take it out? Who wants to take it away? Dave, you want to read the first question?
Yeah, I'll take
Viewer
this
takeover.
one. This one comes to us from Maverick on the Discord.
You know,
He
this
says-
would already be better if Maverick changed his name to Maverick the Game Cat.
Yeah.
Just heads up for
Hey,
next week, man.
We're being a
got
little
such a-
pushy. We're
that's
being a
got a
little
nice-
pushy here.
okay,
It
Let's
worked on-
just get to the question.
It worked on Lou.
It just sounds so good.
It worked
It's
on
true,
Lou.
It's true.
All right.
Okay.
Sorry,
so
sorry, Maverick and Dave.
he says hashtag viewer takeover. Thanks for the recent Thanks for the recent top 20 PSVR games debate. Would it be possible to have a bottom 20 PSVR games debate? Games to strictly avoid, games that are so bad they aren't worth downloading even if they're free.
Well, every
do you guys
top needs a bottom, so I think we should definitely have this discussion. I definitely think that, like, although we talked about this off camera at some point, we said we're going to do a top 10 worst PlayStation VR game list, like an official one. It keeps getting pushed onto the back burner. We keep saying, oh, we'll get to it. But there's other priorities, things that are more important that we need to work on first. These top 20 lists took me. I edited for basically 17 hours straight last night from beginning to end. Took a few breaks and just to kind of clear my head. But even that, there was like a few hours of preparation before that. I think there was like a 20-hour edit total. Even a top 10 list is quite a chore. But I thought maybe we could just kind of kick back and talk about some of the games that we're not huge fans of, maybe the worst of the worst.
Absolutely. First of all, great job on the top 20, and great job, Katz, helping us with the voting process. Great job, Dave, with the voiceover.
We'll get to that.
And yes, and
yeah,
I wouldn't say
you didn't see the last viewer takeover question, did you?
I did. I'm playing them.
This might not be the worst game ever, but I certainly hate it with a passion, and I'm calling it out. And that's going to be Bravo Team by Supermassive Games. This game was just such a disappointment in so many ways. I think it was $50. I know you talked about 40, 50. I think it was $50.
That's insane.
They didn't. Yeah, and I really feel for Supermassive Games because we know they're super talented. We know that they made. Of course, Rush of Blood, which is like one of our favorites. It's in our top 10 of the top 20. But, this game did a couple things that just is everything a VR game shouldn't do. And number one is the proportions of the bodies. Like when you get into the game, your arms and your legs are the size of tree trunks. And it looked so goofy. They did fix that, however, but there's more. The probably the number one thing that they messed up with that game that it baffles me to this day is that when you teleport over to a new spot to pick like a vantage point, it rips you out of first person like violently, and there's no smoothing on it or anything. It just rips you right out, and then you see yourself running. You can get shot while you're doing that, but you can't shoot back, and then it throws you right back in. And you have no idea which way you're facing. And to be honest with you, that they probably did that as like a motion comfort thing, and it made me more nauseous. It gave me a splitting headache every time they ripped me out and threw me back in. Also, that it's an aim game, and we were really excited about that. They compare it to Time Crisis. It wasn't anything like Time Crisis. There was no bosses, there was no explosions, no over the top anything. And then finally, the aim, like, it wasn't even that good. Like, the aim wasn't even very precise with it. And it's like, that's the only game I ever played where I'm like aiming and shooting and it's not working. Like, it's
it felt
aiming
sluggish.
to the left or right. Yeah, I mean, Farpoint, the makers of the aim, Impulse Gear, like when you aim down the sights in that, it's so precise. It's like you're actually holding this huge rifle, looking down the sights. It feels good. It's clean. This was not that. So, like I said, nothing against Supermassive Games. I think they're an amazing company, but this one was a real stinker, and it was overpriced. They didn't show any gameplay footage, any information until it released. They tried to take people's footage down that started live streaming it with copyright strikes. They didn't want people to see how bad it was, and just not a good game. Very, very disappointing.
Yeah, I mean, when people say Time Crisis, the first thing that comes to mind are all these big flashy arcade-like explosions and crazy music and people, bodies flying everywhere and power-ups and things that are just very unrealistic. And suddenly you're in a helicopter shooting down, you're like on a jet ski, and there are people, and it's constant movement, right? And even when you're standing still, you're not standing still for long. You shoot a few guys and then boom, 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 you're off to the next section. But even that stays for the most part in first person. This did everything possible to sort of just hamper the excitement level, and even the enemies were generic and copied and pasted over and over and over again. I mean, it was rough, man. That was really
and they
rough.
would just respawn. They would respawn if you cleared an area. You had to push through and actually walk through it.
Oh, right.
Otherwise they would just keep coming. It was no end to it. It was awful.
Good old monster closets. Gotta love that. Nice. Dave, what's your least favorite game on PlayStation VR?
Well, I don't know if it's my least favorite, but the one that pops to mind most immediately is probably like Moto Racer 4 / ATV Tricks and whatever the fuck they were called.
Right.
They're basically the same really, really low budget, not very full featured games. They took existing games, Moto Racer 4, and they crammed in like a tiny VR part where you're not racing against anybody. And it's just $40. It was $40 when it came out. And then they released the ATV one, which was basically the same exact set of levels.
Yeah, same courses.
But you're on an ATV instead of a motorcycle.
It's good.
And it was also $40.
That should have been free DLC. Been like, hey, take instead of riding a motorcycle, you can ride an ATV.
Yeah, check out VR.
Right.
It's just one of those things. And they got like physical releases too, which blows my fucking mind. I really, just a cash grab. Just poorly made games.
Yeah.
So
that was an early example for us.
Ones.
Very, very early days of PlayStation VR when we didn't really know better. We assumed when they said PlayStation VR version coming or patch or whatever, or if this is going to launch with a PlayStation VR mode, we just said, oh great, Moto Racer games actually aren't bad. Full campaigns and all this stuff. You can upgrade your bike or whatever, or buy new bikes, and the fact that you start it up and you're just in VR, you're totally not allowed to access the campaign at all. In fact, the streets you're racing on are all practice. There's no opponents. There's no vehicles. Just big barren wastelands. In the graphics,
yeah, it looks like shit. It looks like shit, honestly.
Yeah, and it's not going to come as a surprise to anybody when I say Tale of a Fragmented Star is just the bane of my existence. For $25, it was maybe the worst 3 or 4 hours I'd ever spent in any game ever. Just so frustrating. They took a puzzle game and they found new in disastrous ways to make it more frustrating for the player, which is just the opposite of what you want to do. I think Tarsier, right, who made Static, they found a way to be like, hey, you know what? Even when you're stuck, this is kind of interesting, right? Trying to figure things out, and you
absolutely, yeah,
right. You're in an interesting location. There's cool voiceovers. There's just an overarching mysterious theme to the game. But man, Tale of a Fragmented Star, you just don't care. There's so many missed opportunities. You're stranded on this tiny little planet. You don't get to move around. You're staring at this little anime girl who you think, hey, maybe I'm going to get to know her. Maybe I'm going to get to learn her story, her plight. What is she doing on this tiny little planet?
Maybe she'll lean towards me and touch my face. And...
Right. Maybe I'm a 12-year-old boy who finds that fascinating. I don't know.
Maybe it's a summer lesson there.
I'll be honest with you. From the trailer, like, it looks kind of interesting. Like, it looks like it could be a fun little puzzle adventure. So they did a really good job. Whoever made their trailer needs a raise. But then you actually play it, and
whoever made the trailer should not be able to sleep at night because they made it look good.
I think they will sleep at night because the 4 people that bought that game, Brian, one of them, bought it because of that trailer. So I think they could rest easy knowing that
he was going to buy it either way. He was going to buy it.
I actually bought it in spite of the trailer, or despite of the trailer, I guess I should say. It's the trailer did show some of the stuff that goes on about, like, there's this big giant switch that she has to pull, and she just hangs there for such a long time, and you're like, this can't be how the whole game plays out. This would be really irritating and boring and frustrating. And as it turns out, that's exactly what it was. So yeah, $25, save your money. That is just absolute garbage. We could go on. There's so many awful games on PlayStation.
Oh yeah.
And we'll have that list. We'll have that list, and it'll have a bunch of good ones for you to avoid.
Yeah, tune in next year. We'll definitely have it eventually. So much work to do around here. All right, who's up on the next viewer takeover question?
I volunteer AJ.
All right, you're up.
He volunteered himself.
I'll take it.
You're up, AJ.
Got my dude Joystick Guru. What's up, dude, from the Discord? He says hashtag viewer takeover like a pro. And he says, now that we are nearing the end of the first generation of PSVR, why do you think adoption of VR in mainstream has been so slow? What would you do to catapult VR to the forefront with PSVR? That's an interesting question. First of all, I gotta say real quick, I don't think the adoption rate is that slow, to be honest with you. I think a lot of the technology, the simple answer is that the technology is just getting started. This is the generation 1. We're using previous generation controllers, the Move controllers, for the things. It just hasn't been fully developed. The PS4, I don't even know if it was designed with VR in mind. Quite frankly, it's a miracle that there's 4 million headsets sold right now, in my opinion, considering, how much further along it has to go. But I think it's also a really special thing that we're witnessing here, that we're not only witnessing, but being a part of. So he says, what would you do to catapult VR?
Let's take the first let's take the first part first. I want to stay here real quick. I think the reason the adoption has been so slow is because it was unproven for such a long time, and it was so expensive. We're talking $400 or $500 right out of the gate. If you wanted the full thing with the Move controllers and everything, that package deal was $500 if I remember correctly. It's $400.
Well, and like
if you already
for
had
somebody for somebody like me who had nothing and couldn't get the bundle, I spent $800 out of pocket on launch day buying all the individual components, and now you can get it for like
$200. Yeah,
$250.
Yeah, with games included. Like we got a demo disc, which, don't get me wrong, demo disc was great, but that's nothing like getting 2 free games when you get a PlayStation VR headset. And so I think that's why we're starting to see sales take off a little bit more now. We're starting to see some more consistent sales, because it used to be, it didn't seem like we're getting any updates at all, and then we'd get a little spike around the holidays. And now it seems like, every time they report in, it's, significantly more than it was before. And I think price point is most of that. If you put something for $200, I think a lot of people go, I've heard interesting things about this. I heard Resident Evil 7 is really scary. That Beat Saber game looks like a lot of fun. $200 doesn't seem like the biggest investment, but $400 or $500 or $800, like you gotta really want this thing and be in the in the consciousness of of the VR gamers, like to already know this is something I've been looking forward to and want and ready to like save up some money and put that money toward this. It's definitely not an impulse purchase at that price.
Yeah, well, and especially at that point, like we didn't have Beat Saber, we didn't have Firewall, we didn't have Astrobot, we didn't have any of that stuff.
We didn't have much of anything.
And at this point, it's a huge, like, I don't know, it's you can get so much out of this small investment. If you already have a PS4, there is really no reason to not just go ahead and grab a PSVR. So I think that's why for Sony, their adoption rate has been by far the strongest.
Right.
Because like if you look at Oculus, it's finicky. Like there's a lot of messing with settings to get stuff to work right. Even if you have a really expensive computer, I've heard like No Man's Sky, people with like top of the line computers were still having issues with the performance.
Still needs some optimization, yeah.
And so like on PSVR, maybe it's kind of blurry or you have a few bugs, but it's standardized. So like what experience you're going to get, and it's consistent. Yeah. And almost everybody has a PS4 at this point. It's sold so many, like
100 million.
It's crazy.
Yeah, it's on track to be one of the best-selling consoles of all time.
So I think that answers the first part of the question. To answer the second part of the question, games to me, it's all about the games are going to sell PSVR 2. Of course, there's little things like the better hardware, maybe the wireless. I think people would still buy them even if it wasn't wireless. But I think a lot of more people would probably buy it if it was wireless. But to me, when it comes down to it, once they get the extra power, the games are the number one most important thing. Look at the difference between now and when PSVR launched. What's the big difference between this 4 million user growth? The games.
Yeah, no, but definitely with the power of the PlayStation 5, like there needs to be some parity. There needs to be this line drawn in the sand where you go, listen, if you are making a game for PlayStation 5, then you need to talk to Lloyd in the basement, sign his little contract so that he can flip the switch and put it on PlayStation VR, right? It should just be standard, like until games like later in the generation, later in the PlayStation 5 life cycle that actually manage to take full power of the console, it should be standard. You're making a game for PlayStation 5, it's PSVR, it's a PSVR 2 game as well, or a PSVR, you can use your same headset. I think just parity, man. You buy a game, you want to be able to play it in PlayStation VR. It sucks. Games like Subnautica, Forest, all these games that sound like, or I've just lost my train of thought. There are all these games that they said, oh, we can't do that, and then No Man's Sky proved them wrong.
Right.
So there needs to be a little bit of parity next generation.
And Skyrim. I think the controllers as well.
Of course, yeah.
No, the Move controllers need to go. It's time, but next generation. I think Sony's been, by not revealing new controllers, they've been like, you guys are kind of stuck with these things until next gen, which I'm totally fine with. I don't want to buy new hardware today and then in a year have to buy 2 new controllers because I just upgraded to the PlayStation 5.
I probably would, but
I still would. I still would, but I don't think most of those 4 million people would buy them.
Right.
Probably not. Yeah. So my thing is, you guys have already covered games. Of course, that's a huge selling point. And I think once we get into PS5, when the power's there to bring these kind of AAA, like Ubisoft, EA, like big fucking games. I'm really
looking forward to Gran Turismo.
And Sony's bought a lot of companies that have done VR games recently. Like they have Insomniac in their cabinet now.
Great move.
And Insomniac has done some exclusives for Oculus, but now who are they going to do exclusives for? It's going to be us.
Oh, I was going to say
most
HTC.
likely.
Damn, I always get these down.
Yeah, you were close. So
close.
But for me, I think some of the stuff is going to be hardware based. Like AJ said, the controllers will be a huge thing because having tried the Oculus controllers now, there's so much to having that extra level of interaction with stuff, like having fingers that uniquely grip stuff. It's really cool. And I think inside out tracking is going to be a main thing too. Even if we don't get wireless, just not having to worry about where your camera is set up is going to eliminate so many issues for so many people.
When I use my
PSVR 2,
when I use my Quest, I keep having to remind myself I don't have to stand in one specific direction.
Yeah, exactly. I had to train myself to be able to turn 360 because I'm used to just standing forward right in front of the camera.
Yeah.
And so if that becomes a non-issue, I think that's really going to open it up for people. And that really is the last point of stickiness that we have, because with the tracking right now, you are limited in where you can move and where you can look and where you can point at stuff. And so if that is no longer an issue and you don't have to worry about that camera placement, I think it's just going to make it so much smoother for people to hop in and play.
We're headed in the right direction, and it's great that Sony has so much great competition, because the competition is always good for the consumers. I think it's going to keep the price level down. I think it's going to keep the technology advancing forward at a rapid pace. I think next generation is going to be very exciting, and I haven't said that in a while. Like, I didn't say that for PS3. I was like, oh, okay, cool, HD TV, that's going to be nice. All right, cool. PlayStation 4, I was like totally not excited at all. I bought one on launch day. I still was like not excited. I'm so excited for PS5s.
PS4 is at this point one of the best consoles that's ever been released, I think.
But 6 years ago I wasn't excited at all.
Yeah.
Not even remotely. I was like, oh, whatever. Yeah, I didn't know VR was coming. All right, I'm up, Asia. K-Panic, the VR Game Cat, writes on our Discord server, who writes, #ViewerTakeover. Brian, hi. You mentioned that the price of entry for No Man's Sky with the hours needed just to learn it. What other game has such a payoff with fractions of a penny cost to gameplay time ratio? Question mark. I'm gonna say, I think the easy answer on this is Skyrim, right? I mean, just like so much to do and like in so many different mechanics to learn that you can play that game forever, and you'll definitely get your. Is it still $60? I don't know. I don't think it is.
Skyrim? No.
Probably not.
You definitely get your money back.
Usually around 40, you can probably find it for less.
Oh yeah, definitely wait for a sale at this point. It's been out forever. But I think Skyrim is, it's just a massive open world and just so much to do, and you play it however you want to, and you could spend 300 hours in that game playing as a stealth archer, and then go, oh, I want to start over, and I want to run around the city and kill people with fireballs that come out of my hand. I'm like, well, that sounds like way more fun. I'm Skyrim's probably the easy answer. Guys?
For me, go ahead.
No,
For me, the answer is there isn't a game that has such a payoff with the fraction of a penny cost to gameplay ratio. Because even with Skyrim, in some ways I can see how people might say there are more possibilities because there's a lot of like quest and storyline stuff, and there's different ways to customize your character itself in a sort of RPG kind of way.
Right.
But for me, the freedom and the excitement of exploration in No Man's Sky, and once you start to sort of scratch the surface of each mechanic and realize there's so much more there for you to figure out, for me, that's totally unparalleled. I think it's the most, like, I don't know, endlessly replayable game that we've ever had in VR. And I think, I don't know, it's infinite. So if you get into it, there is no comparison. Skyrim is a huge game, but you can do every side quest.
I think both are a good answer. I have one that's completely different. And I don't know, you probably know what it is. No, it's not. It's actually probably not what you think it is.
It's not Immortal Legacy, is it? Is it Preda?
No, it would be funny. I was thinking Preda for a second because it's so grindy, but it's not.
You have to spend 100 hours to unlock anything.
Exactly.
Level
2. I mean, but no, I was actually going to say from a price to content ratio, I would say the Souls Project.
If I had to guess, if I knew
that's a good one.
If I knew you weren't saying Preda, I definitely would have said Souls Project.
If I would have known the Souls, I bought it originally when it was like on sale for like $7-8, $10, something like that. If I would have known what that game was when it came out, I would have paid $40 for it, not just 20, but double the price of it because of how much content, how much stuff there is to do in there. It's the main campaign is 15 hours. But you can spend almost 100 hours in the game just exploring and doing stuff. So doesn't come near Skyrim or No Man's Sky. But for the amount that you pay and the amount of game that's in it, oh my God, there's a lot.
Yeah.
By the way, it's an awesome game too.
It really is, for sure. I think it's actually on sale right now for $6 in North America.
It's just criminal.
Just get it, man. Right. it looks really impressive too. Like, just, I know we're going on a little bit of tangent here, but man, the first
those
time
tornadoes, man, those fucking tornadoes,
right? With
the tornadoes aren't even like the half of it, man. The tornadoes are the tamest thing, and
but that's so
they
early
look
on.
Awesome, and they're terrifying.
It's so early on where you're like, oh, that thing out there on the ocean is really scary, and you're like, oh, it's coming at me. Oh, I have to run away from
it. Cave. Oh my God!
Right? Yeah, it was terrifying when I realized it wasn't just like this beautiful thing out in the water and that it was going to kill me. I was like, suddenly I got real nervous.
Yep.
All right, and then finally, Dave, you want to read the last viewer takeover question?
Oh goodness. Okay, so we got one that is not even a question, actually.
I just took this
from Daniel Scary, and I know you loved picking this one.
Scary.
It's a comment from the top 20 PSVR games, which, once again, great job, Brian. That was a really well done video. I liked it.
Thank you. You guys did a great job too. Thank you for your help.
And he said, had to laugh when Dave had the voiceover for Five Nights at Freddy's LOL. Secretly his favorite game. Smiley face. Well, we all know that's not true. I've routinely, if you guys watch the top 20 debates, or any video where I talk about Five Nights at Freddy's, you know that I've at length talked about how much I don't like it. But I know that people do, and I had to kind of be professional and rise above it. We, like Brian, I don't know if he's said yet, but we did every third game split up between the three of us. So it was sort of a random lineup, and sometimes the chips fall where they're going to fall. And I'm doing Five Nights at Freddy's.
Well, and to your credit, man, I got to say that I think that's the only game that ended up being on the final 20 that not everybody agreed should be there. I think, as far as the rest of the list is concerned, I think we can all agree universally that the other 19 games. Oh wait, no, that's not true. I just remembered 2 other games that we probably all don't agree on.
Well, to your credit,
you spoke way too soon.
I did way too soon.
Really good and really professional. I do it all the time. I did it for. I'm not going to mention the game.
You should. We're bearing it all now.
I'm more shy about saying I don't like certain games, especially because I don't want to offend anybody out there. But,
right. This is what we do on the channel. Is we try not to offend people. It's not like we review games or anything.
Right, AJ. There's games that I have respect for, but I just don't like them that much. And it's a waste of time for me to bash them. But I thought it ended up sounding really professional, really good. So good job on there, man.
Well, thank you, sir. My only regret, and this is Brian's fault.
My fault.
I put in what I thought was a nice subtle jab at Five Nights at Freddy's at the beginning of the script, and he edited a little bit of everything out of, because mine were kind of long. So I understand.
Can we play the clip? Let's play the clip.
Here's the unedited clip from Dave for Five Nights at Freddy's.
Five Nights at Freddy's might be one of the most popular franchises ever to grace the PlayStation VR, but you'd be forgiven if you've only ever heard about it from your 12-year-old nephew. Fortunately, the VR edition will get you up to speed with levels from all of the existing Five Nights releases, along with some intensely creepy new minigames.
That's what you didn't hear.
So, yeah, and it was just one other line, but to me that was very important because I wanted to get my little tiny jab in before I said my piece.
I'll get you 12-year-olds.
Right. So I don't know. I felt like I was only comfortable putting it out there if there was a tiny little. But that you guys got what you got. Brian was a very judicious. He's a very judicious editor.
Yeah, you guys talked about
Sorrento.
You mentioned something about. I was like, man, if I would have known that I could have done this, I totally would have on some of them.
It's tough because for some games,
he's gonna cut it out.
Well, for some games, I do think when we put a game like Everybody's Golf on the top 20 list, you have to say, even though it doesn't have multiplayer, and with Sorrento, you have to say, even though the graphics aren't very great, you kind of preface the entire thing and then go, but here's why it's here. It's so good for every other reason. Right.
Well, that's what I was trying to do. And my angle on Five Nights at Freddy's was, even though this is a game that's been popularized by small children who follow terrible YouTubers, it's still okay, and a lot of people like it, and these are the reasons. You know what I mean?
I'll tell you what, I really loved your Skyrim one. How you're like, you can adopt a child, and it's never been more immersive. I laughed out loud at that one for sure.
I always was trying to adopt that kid, and I never had enough money.
I had no idea.
You have to own a house. You have to own a house.
You have to be married too. Bill Ramio in the Discord was like, "Oh yeah, you can do it. You have to be married."
Yeah.
He was like, "Are you married?" I was like, He's like, in Skyrim. I was like, "Oh no."
It doesn't count if you're married in real life in Skyrim, but.
But anyway, that was an epic, ridiculously long editing session for the top 20 list, and man, when I was going through, it was sort of just nonstop. I was plowing through everything as fast as I could. I was like, okay, we're just taking this out and putting this in and whatever, just kind of shoving it all together. I edited a bunch of Dave's for length because his tended to be, I think AJ's ended up being a little short, and Dave's ended up being a little long.
Mine were really short. Mine were 3 lines a piece. That's what I was saying. I was like, damn, I should have did more. But
I think I said I asked you guys to about 3 sentences each, and then Dave just had some longer sentences, and AJ had some really short sentences.
When you say 3 sentences, my sentences are going to have a parentheses and a whole nother section, and it's going to be talking about 4 things in one sentence.
Yeah. No, so I kind of, so it was a lot of editing, and of course I want Dave to know that we appreciate his perspective, and I would have left the joke in if I knew that that was the caveat. Thank you guys so much. You saved me a ton of time by writing your own scripts and doing your own voiceovers, and I think it came together and it really reflected the 7 hours of debating and all the discussions that we had, and we were able to get a little bit of our own personalities in there, even if I chopped some of it out.
All right, let's do the next one.
Well, I don't think there is a next one, is there?
Yeah, God, not till the end of November. I'm so happy we don't have to worry about that for a while.
Rest your easy heart, Brian.
Right.
We've got other things to worry about now.
Right, like pizza. It's time for pizza. All right, guys, let's wrap this thing up. Guys, thank you so very much for hanging out with me and doing viewer takeover in Dez's absence. Hopefully, he comes back to us in one piece. Everything's okay. Remember GameCat meetup on October 19th. Jesus, that's coming up fast, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Also, make sure tickets still. Damn.
Yeah. Make sure you join our Discord. The link is in the description. Make sure you hit us up on patreon.com/withoutprogames for $1 or more every single month. Games. Make sure you submit your viewer takeover questions either in the Discord or in the comments below with the hashtag viewer takeover. And if you change your name to GameCat, because why wouldn't you? Because you love us as much as we love you, hashtag GameCat in the comments, and we'll give you a shout out on next week's show. As always, I'm Brian. That's AJ. That's Dave. And we love you all. I don't want to tell you guys this at all, but I don't know if this has actually been recording.